Hey everyone, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today I'm talking about the OneOdio A10 Bluetooth headphones. This is one of many models that they've come out with. This is one of the more recent ones, and it has an interesting price point and feature set, so I'll compare it to what I think is probably the biggest competitor under $100. With that being said, these retail for $90. It's sold for $80 on the OneOdio website, and at the moment, even less on Amazon, plus there's been a coupon code that circulates. Now, this was sent to me for review by OneOdio. It won't affect what I say about it because I'm always honest in my reviews, and you'll see that later in the video. But if anything happens or changes with discounts and I can provide extra savings to you, I'll have that in the description below, as well as a generic purchase link. None of that is set up for me to get special kickbacks. I never do anything like that for monetary exchange, but again, just full disclosure. Now, as far as what you get in the box, there's a few accessories included in addition to the A10, of course. So you get a protective case, and this is huge because a lot of headphones in this price range, some will give you a protective case of varying quality, but some also just give you a travel pouch. And while the pouches are nice from a portability standpoint and preventing them from getting scratched, it doesn't protect them from impact or pressure or other things in your bag that may compress or possibly physically break the headphone. So you get a nice little travel case, and then you get two cords. Now, there's an instruction manual and stuff like that too. It's more like a booklet to tell you how to use the controls, but I'll get into that. Then you get two cords. You have a USB A to C cable to charge it, and an auxiliary cable, because this cable, which does not do microphone pass-through, it's just audio, the headphone can be off, and you can use this as an analog headphone. So if you're concerned about the batteries ever dying, you get a backup option with this. Now, one cool thing about the A10 is how they collapse to be stored in this pocket. So obviously you get swivel ear cups, which is great. I'll get into comfort shortly, but these also fold. Now, if you fold only one and keep them rotated like this is how you would store it in this case. So I can just kind of slide it in. And because of that, the case is a little bit smaller than it would have been had I not been able to do that. So this takes up less space in your bag as a result. Now, I'm only going to touch briefly on specs because, one, you can read more on the website as far as basic specs go, but some of the specs are kind of irrelevant. I'm just going to talk about the specs that matters, and one of them is battery life. It's rated for 50 hours, which is on the leading side of battery life at this price range. That's with just standard Bluetooth enabled, or you can do 40 hours with active noise cancellation enabled because, yes, it has ANC. That battery life is excellent. That should get you through a lot of use for travel, but if for any reason you need to top off while you're on the go, it does also support rapid charging with that USB-C port. So a 5-minute charge can get you 2 hours or so of listening, which is great for those in-between times where you just have to juice up. Again, if you couldn't do that, you have the 3.5 millimeter connection as a backup. Another important spec to point out is the Bluetooth. So this is where it gets, to be expected. This isn't like a game-changing surprise feature set because it's just Bluetooth 5.0, and they don't advertise any special codec. So there's no AAC advertised. There's no aptX low latency, no LDAC, things like that. Consider this a standard SBC codec only, which to some people, they will not notice the difference or care. And again, this is kind of what's to be expected in this price range when you look at the whole feature set together. So yes, only SBC, which means not the lowest latency. If you're looking to have wireless performance through Bluetooth, it's not terrible but like from an FPS or anything that requires rapid response time, you may want to use the aux connection or go with something that supports aptX low latency if you need that capability. Now, some may see this as a pro and con, but one nice thing about the A10 is there's no app to deal with. There's nothing you have to download to use it. Some people will want custom EQ and sound profiles and the ability to change active noise cancellation via their phone, but this is just a simpler setup. You pair it to your phone and then use the controls and you're good to go. Now, the other spec to point out is weight. Frankly, this weighs about 295 grams, so it's extremely lightweight, and that's very important for travel because the less weight in your bag or on your head, the better for long-term comfort. Now, as far as build quality and comfort goes, I just want to point out a few basic things. One, this uses a metal headband, which is great. That's going to help for long-term durability because the metal just doesn't break down the same way plastic does. Initially, plastic is fine and it keeps the weight down, but plastic can become brittle over time. So having a metal headband is great even in this price range. The padding on the top, it's really nice padding. It uses a protein leather, which is a softer artificial leather than your traditional leatherette material that you typically get. The padding is nice. It doesn't go all the way down the headband. This is kind of normal for headphones that do this. Anytime you have a headphone that folds, I typically see an all plastic design. It's just the nature of how this headband system works for expanding and contracting. Now, on that note, when it comes to sizing, I wear these on the smallest possible size. It fits my head very well. However, if you have a very small head or you're buying this for a young child, you may find that even in the smallest setting, it could be too large for you. Now, I'll make some references to another headphone in a moment, but for medium to larger heads, the sizing is great. Now, following down the rest of the headband design, you have a split yoke system. This fork to mount the ear cup is my preferred style. It's extremely durable because the pressure is on both sides, and believe it or not, some products actually use a single hinge system, which looks nice, but it doesn't wear as well. So this is really made to last. Now, the other thing I noticed is they put a little felt piece on the inside of the ear cup. So when this is hitting, you're not getting hard plastics. It's quiet. That's a really nice feature from just a look and feel perspective. Not hearing rattling plastic like when I do this. That's great. It's super solid. And you can even see that the headband has a nice flex to it. You don't want to do this too much, but the fact that it's holding up well, I don't have any weird noises or pops, it just seems to be built well. You even see a nice little vent on the top of the ear pad up here for the sound quality. I'll get into the sound here soon. But you have a really nice overall design. There's this stuff on the outside can show dust after a while, but it does look really classy. I think looks are a personal preference thing, but I like that these don't look like a cheap, tacky headphone. Again, these are roughly $70 headphones, so the styling is quite nice. Now, the standout feature to me is the pads, both from a pro and a con standpoint. Part of how they kept the weight and the size down is by going with thinner pads. So if you don't like your ears touching the baffle, which is basically the front cover of the driver here, you may want to get a headphone that has a deeper pad. These are very well padded. This is not a hard piece. So your ears are resting on it gently. This is a very breathable material, so it's not causing heat on the inside, but you do feel a little bit of pressure. It's almost like putting your ear on a pillow. The pad quality is the standout. Now, I was going to wait to do more comparisons later, but just to show you, because this is going to be my closest competitor under $100, and that's the Creative Zen Hybrid. This protein leather feels like a much more expensive pad, and when you touch it, it's so soft and quiet. I don't think you'll hear any sound when I do this. Then you compare it to the leatherette pad that you get on the Creative, which is, it feels rougher. You can hear a difference in how smooth that protein leather feels, and that feels much better on your ear. Think of this almost like closer to a real leather feel without actually paying the cost or harming an animal. So for long-term comfort, that's great. Now, leatherette is common on headphones like this because you need to block out exterior sound, which is called passive noise isolation. If you're traveling, even with ANC off, you want the ability to lock in the sound for yourself so other people can't hear what you're listening to, but at the same time, you want to block all that excess noise. This also assists with the active noise cancellation, so if you want that to work well, it really has to be a leatherette. Now, the only downside to the leatherette, though, is the breathability. Anytime you have a material like this, because it's trapping everything in, it's not going to breathe as well as a mesh or a sport fabric, which lets all of the sound in or out. It doesn't do as good of a job at blocking exterior sounds, so you kind of need it for that. However, because of these shallow cups and the leatherette, just like the Creative Zen Hybrid, after a little bit, I have to pull them off my ear from time to time just to give my ears a breather. That's just a byproduct of this. So if you're concerned with clamp force, I think considering the fact that these weigh as little as they do and they have to trap in all that sound, the clamp force is on average to moderate. It's not very light, so it doesn't feel loose. I can move my head around and they're not going to go anywhere, but I don't have a vice-like clamp force. This is basically where it should be for a portable headphone like this. Now, as far as controls go, on the right-hand side, you have a few buttons, and I like that they're textured and spaced out well, so it's harder to fumble around and press the wrong button. The top button is volume up, but if you press and hold, that is going to advance a track. The center button is your power button. Again, press and hold to turn it on, but it's also an action button if you just tap it. And then the minus button down here below it is to turn the volume down or go back a track. Again, if you press and hold, you'll get the secondary functions like the Smart Assist if you want to call your Google or Apple Voice Assistant. Then you have the 3.5 millimeter aux input. When you plug this in, the headphone turns off, so you don't have to worry about using your battery life. Even if it's on, as soon as you plug it in, it turns off. On the left-hand side, you have an ANC button. Now, the ANC button has 3 modes. By default, it's off, and that's how you get your long battery life, all the passive noise isolation, etc. Then you have a transparent mode, which is great for travel. If you want to wear these and ride a bike or go for a walk, and you still need to hear your surroundings, you can press the transparency mode and it works exceptionally well on this headphone. That was better than to be expected because usually transparency mode just doesn't sound good on budget headphones. So the benefit of that is you can hear stuff going on around you in a natural way, but you still get to trap in your sound so people can't hear what you're listening to. This will also come in handy if you're traveling and you don't want to miss a flight call out or things like that. So I like that feature. And then you have, of course, ANC on, which is going to actively block out background noise, which they claim is about a 35 decibel reduction, if I'm not mistaken. I don't find that this works exceptionally well. Like, you're not going to compare this to a Sony or a Bose product for ANC, but for a sub $100 headphone, it's average and it works fairly consistently. Don't expect this to block out someone talking to you, but it does greatly reduce droning or humming or fan sounds. So this is great for plane noise, a long car drive where the highway noise can be an issue after a while, fans in your home, things like that. It does a good job at reducing it, but it doesn't completely eliminate it. You just hear it turn down quite a bit. And then you have your USB-C charge port. There's no protective cover on it. It's always exposed, but there's a little bit of convenience to that. And then you don't have to worry about losing the cover or having it fall off over time. So I like the design overall. So real quick, while I have the Zen Hybrid out, I just want to show you the size difference. You can see that this physically has a larger opening. Now, again, this fits my head fine. And on this, on the smallest setting, it doesn't fit at all. So you have to open it up. The other thing I want to point out is the style. The design is a personal preference thing. This is more matte and it should be pretty durable. It's built well from a long-term wear standpoint, whereas this, you're going to have to clean it from time to time. However, again, this is a personal preference thing. I feel like this just looks more elegant on the A10. My biggest nitpick I had with the Creative product is they blast all of their features around the perimeter of the cup. I'm not trying to advertise everything my headphone does, so I wish this was cleaner. This has essentially nothing on it. It's just the OneOdio logo. And then on the headband up here, this one has nothing on the headband. But overall, again, it's a personal preference thing. That's just what stands out to me. And now I'm talking to you on the OneOdio A10 microphone system. This is using the built-in mics. I'm not doing any special processing. In fact, I'm just connected to my phone, much like you would be on a phone call. This microphone is very sensitive. It's fairly loud. But I also want to play some city noise in the background to show you something to see what you think. So this is with other noise in the background. And as you can tell, it's not really blocking too much out. These aren't the best microphones for traveling in a noisy environment if you plan on making a lot of phone calls. All right, and just for comparison, now I'm talking to you on the Creative Zen Hybrid microphone. I don't think it's as clear or loud as the OneOdio A10. It's more compressed. However, it does do a slightly better job at background noise rejection, as you will hear. So that city noise is playing in the background. You can still hear it, but I don't think it's as ear-piercing or forward as it was on the A10. So this is a little bit better in a noisy environment. Still not great. All right, now as far as sound quality goes with the A10, I think it's smart to always temper some expectations when you're looking at any sub-$100 Bluetooth-capable headphone with active noise cancellation. There's only so much you can get for the money. So the A10, however, is tuned better than I expected. A lot of times in this price range, you lose something called resolution, which is basically like, yes, you can have bass and yes, you can have treble, but it almost sounds muffled or almost like there are several blankets in between the speaker and your ear. That wasn't the case with the A10 and it wasn't the case with the Zen Hybrid. To me, these represent some of the best valued Bluetooth headphones in this price range. So comparing the sound quality between the two, this has a fairly laid back vocal presentation, but the vocals still come through very clearly. If you were listening to two of these side by side, I think by doing this comparison, by the way, it helps better explain the way these sound. You still hear male and female vocals extremely well. The male vocals on this one sound a little bit more warmer and more intimate, and the female vocals with the higher frequency range that they typically have, they're still clear, but they're a little bit more relaxed sounding. It's like they take a step back a little bit when you're listening to various songs, whereas on the Zen Hybrid, it's more forward. Now, to some people, that will present as better detail and better presence in the voice range, but at the same time, this can be a more relaxing sound profile to listen to because you're still getting that clarity that you're looking for. It's not audiophile level, of course, but it's just a little bit more laid back sounding when it comes to vocals. Now, the bass is good on both of these because they're not overly bassy. Other headphones in this price range tend to give you gobs of bass. It sounds good for something, I guess, but when you start listening to mixed content, it's too much. And that's what hurts the rest of it. This has a very clean bass. It is emphasized, but only slightly. And it's not emphasized in the very deep region. So it doesn't have a lot of rumble and depth to it. Explosions still sound nice. There's still some visceralness to it. So if you want like an explosion to actually have a bang to it, they still give you that. The Zen hybrids just dig a little bit deeper. It's not as hard hitting, but it's still very clean. And I think you get a little bit more texture in the bass. The bass is a little bit more refined. However, again, if you were to just put these on, you wouldn't think much of it. The bass would still sound great. And it's more than adequate for music listening that typically doesn't get into that very deep bass region, again, depending on what genre you listen to. Now, one side note or one advantage to tuning the mid-range the way these are tuned is you get a little bit more sense of space and airiness. You know, we talk about soundstage with headphones sometimes. Neither of these are going to give you great soundstage with the way they're designed. That's just not how these are built. They're built to sound more closed off to block out all this extra sound. So because the voices are slightly recessed, I feel like there's certain songs that just sound wider. And when you get really cool imaging effects like a left and right pan, synthwave stuff, the OneOdio just sounds a little bit more wider than the Zen Hybrid. The Zen Hybrid seems more immediate, more closed off, and more in your face. So I like the way this sounds. There is a slight peak right around 8,000 hertz or so. So I guess certain things might have a harder S than you're used to. A certain cymbal might be a little bit harsh, but that's only at higher listening volumes. And it's just slight. It's in comparison to this, which I think is a little bit more reserved in the treble region. Different sound profiles. I don't think either of them are perfect, but I think both are adequate. And I want to start wrapping up by saying this. When you're looking at a sub-$100 headphone with Bluetooth and ANC, you have to balance all of these things that they're trying to do in your price range. Because if you want better sound quality, better ANC, or better microphone performance, frankly, you just have to spend more money. There aren't really a lot of headphones that execute all of this extremely well. So we have to temper that. I think both of these get equally loud. They don't get crazy loud, so you tend to be at like 80 or 90% volume in loud listening environments. These are no better in that regard, but more than loud enough for me because I don't listen to things too loud. I don't want to damage my hearing. So what's cool about the OneOdio, I'll sum up by saying this. The Creative Zen Hybrid gives you a little bit better bang for your buck purely for sound quality per dollar. If that's your only concern and you're sitting at home and you just want wireless, the Zen Hybrid gives you just a little bit better. Where the OneOdio steps up as far as like the extra $20 investment goes, $15 to $20, is essentially double the battery life, 24 hours versus 50 hours. It's more comfortable for me because this leatherette pad, this protein leather, is better to wear. ANC performance is the same. Microphone is better on here in a quiet environment. Microphone is better on here on a noisier environment. So there's a little bit of pros and cons, but when you think about what you're traveling with, this doesn't come with a hard case. So what people need when they travel is comfort, is battery life, is the way to protect the headphone, and you're still getting a good sound quality. So I think it's up to you if you think it's worth spending the extra $20 or so on the A10. For how I would use this, I would prefer the A10 because it has the features that matter to me from a traveling perspective. So it's up to you to decide if that's the same for you. I hope you found this video helpful. Again, I try to be honest and open and help you make a good decision. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to see you at a future video. With that being said, I'll see you next time. Bye.